Did you keep that poop knife?
No, I made her throw it away.
Yeah,
but she was like, why don't we keep the knives that we get at Wendy's? We just keep them in the bathroom to cut turds in half.
Bro, that I always envisioned a poop knife being a much longer affair
Metal,
than a metal,
yes.
like a plastic knife from like fast food knife.
Couldn't
like
agree more.
This long.
Not
I'm not. That's way too intimate for that particular job. I ain't trying to get down in there like that. All right, Airheads, welcome back. It's time once again for Putting on Airs, Fancy Talk, Dumb Boys. It's what we do. We're in the virtual Airstream studios. I'm Trae, and that's Cho, and I think Cho told me beforehand, first things first, before we do anything else, he feels it necessary that he starts with both a retraction and an apology. Isn't that right, Cho?
What?
You wanted to correct something for the record and formally apologize to everyone that was upset by it?
Yeah, so this dude tweeted, by the way, what's hilarious, this dude tweeted, and like, normally when someone tweets like a you guys fucked up thing, it's usually in like jest or fun, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, you know, of course, whatever. But this motherfucker don't even follow me, right?
Uh-huh.
So either he don't follow me and he was just lurking, or he followed me and this pissed him off so much that he was like, fuck it, I'm not following this guy. But he don't follow you either.
Well, do you think that he just is a listener who somehow randomly found like the podcast? Because those people do exist. Maybe just listens to the podcast but don't really fuck with our social medias or anything until you piss him off, and then he went and found you.
Maybe because
you know about it.
He's clearly someone who's familiar with us because of a phrase that he uses here. But this is what's interesting is he commented on this on a completely unrelated tweet. Like, I had tweeted a promo for my new podcast, Public Domain Sleepy Time Theater, and it's all people like, oh, that's awesome, I want to check that out. And then I get this message, who I will say his Twitter handle. He said it on public. I'll put him on blast. Hager TD deplorable. So he's a deplorable. So most people that self-identify as deplorables, you know, we know who those people are.
Yeah, you're right. Typically, that would be. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You know, we're trying to. I would assume that that's someone who is like shoving it in Hillary Clinton's face.
Exactly.
That they are, you know, like reclaiming it. Hillary called this person a deplorable, which means they're probably like me, which is to say a piece of white trash shit. Again, hello, brother. But they are like me. They heard Hillary Clinton call them deplorable, and so they're like, well, you know, well, fuck it then. Guess what? I'm proud to be deplorable.
Right.
That's what you assume.
By the way, I'm not completely against that notion, because when Hillary said that, I think I even texted the group. And I was like, well, she just lost. And everybody was like, you're an insane person. And then I said it on our Sirius show. And not only were y'all like, no, I don't think so, but like we had a bunch of callers that called in basically accusing me of like wanting Trump to win. And I'm like, bro, I don't want Trump to win. I'm just telling you, like, this is not a good thing. She made a bad move. Like, she was already not campaigning in these places. And then it's like, I attributed it to the I don't know if you remember that Richard Pryor bit, when he was talking about people calling him the N-word and how that upset him. But he was like, you know what, though? If you ask for the N-word, the N-word's going to show up. You know what I mean? And I felt that same way about the deplorable people.
That came originally from a Richard Pryor bit?
Yeah.
Because that's literally exactly what Kevin Hart does in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah, Live at the Sunset Strip.
Kevin Hart, the other guy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
He's a super great character actor.
I think it's something like Remy or Ram. It's not Ramy. It's something like that. But anyway, Kevin Hart says, you know, be my N-word. And then later the guy's like, you want an N-word here now, right?
Right. That comes from Live at the Sunset Strip, where Richard Pryor was like, he was hanging out with a bunch of white people or something, and somebody let that word slip. And he knew that, like, by doing so, he was giving them exactly what they thought of him. But he was also like, if you ask for the N-word, the N-word's going to show up. And like, personally, I get that because, like, if I'm in a situation and somebody calls me a redneck white trash, I will get more redneck white trash. You know what I mean? I'll be like, well, if this is what you think of me, then fucking gloves off, bitch. This is what's going to happen. But I think the deplorables did that. They were like, if this is what you think of us, we're going to really show you how fucking deplorable we can be. But anyways, he says, we were talking last week on the podcast about bare naked ladies for some reason, which it has nothing to do with fucking putting on airs or whatever. And
K-cars. It was K-cars.
K-cars. And I would like to point out, though, that it was actually you that was reading into it, and you go, well, this can't be right. And you go, it says it came out in 1988. And I was like, no. And I go, that was on Gordon, which came out around 1992 or 1993, which you looked up and you go, yeah, you're right. And then you made a quip of like, I'll tell you what, nobody knows more about the fucking lore of bare naked ladies than the Cho. And he says, if I Had $1 Million was on their 1988 demo, Christ, you talk out of your ass so often. And that's the part where I go, he's clearly a listener, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
He goes, you talk out of your ass so awesome. Google it, dude. No, seriously, look it up any way you want. The one thing I would like to say is, like, this conversation just came out of nowhere. It's not like we prepared to talk about it. So when I said, no, I don't think that's right, it came out in 1992, it's not like I'd done all this research and got it wrong. But also, like, it came out on their out. Sure, it was on a demo. Nobody fucking listens to demos, especially a year after I was born. It did officially come out on their 1992 album, which, by the way, a bunch of Canadians in the thread was like, yo, it came out on Gordon, which is when, like, most of us were exposed to it, you know? So, like, I'm right and wrong. But, like, the thing is, I don't appreciate the derision here. Like, you fucking idiot. It came out on a demo that you heard at a fucking Tim Hortons because somebody left a mixtape in your fucking donut. You know what I'm saying? I don't appreciate the derision. Okay.
Yeah. The only thing, I mean, we catapulted from that into talking mad shit about Google, but it's like, who goes to bat for Google, you know?
Right.
Or who gets super upset.
But he's not really wrong.
I really doubt it's the Google part of it that upset the guy, is what I'm saying. Because, like, really always it was like, oh, that don't, I was like, that don't seem right. And you were like, no, that ain't right. And then we pretty much immediately were like, man, what the fuck has happened to Google? Is
right.
How it went down.
It was innocuous. It was innocuous, whatever.
Because the thing about the Google shit, okay, whatever. They were technically right about that particular thing.
It was on a demo.
You can't deny that Google has, fallen the fuck off, and that Google's AI is wrong all the time. It goes viral all the time with people taking screenshots of dumb shit. It says,
that's not even the point. Like, so anyone, like, I don't know when "Chicken Fried" by Zach Brown was released as a single. Right, I don't know when it was released as a single. But let's say hypothetically it was 2006 that it was released as a single on his album. If someone was to say "Chicken Fried" came out in 2006, I wouldn't go, actually, I was at a bar in Atlanta called the Toad's Mouth, which is true. It was the Toad something. And Zach Brown was there handing out burnt CDs of a demo where he did "Chicken Fried." I wouldn't go, you're a fucking idiot, because Zach Brown handed me 3 years prior a demo of him doing this. It's just, that's when the song came out to popular whatever the fuck. I would also like to read, and I shouldn't do this. This guy has like 20 followers. I shouldn't do this. I quote tweeted it. I said, okay, person who doesn't follow me, LOL. I'll make sure to get my facts straight when innocuously talking about the bare naked ladies on my goddamn podcast, Puttin on Airs, which has nothing to do with the bare naked ladies. I apologize for mentioning that when I heard it, it was on their 1992 album, Gordon, which came out in, drumroll please, 1992. Can't believe I didn't think to mention the demo they did a year after I was born. What an idiot I am. Also, if you don't like people talking out of their asses, perhaps podcasts aren't your medium. Podcasts are conversational, and in conversations, people don't often cite the encyclopedia, especially for fucking music stuff. So, suck my fucking dick. Do I talk out of my ass? Guilty as fucking charged. That's what this whole fucking show is. So listen to your fucking demo, which, by the way, I guarantee you is not as good of a record as when it came out on Gordon in 1992. They didn't have it mixed right. There probably wasn't a fucking drummer. Shut the fuck up.
So, yeah, if you guys haven't figured it out, when I said that he had a retraction and an apology to make, I was being sarcastic. And
apologizing.
I knew... I know. I knew 100% that what just unfolded would unfold.
But I'm saying that, guys, I'm not saying he's not right that it wasn't on a demo, but we were talking about when it came out. And when it came out means for public consumption on a fucking record.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, I feel like, as I said to you in a text message, it feels like a bit of a gray area to me.
We're both right and we're both wrong.
He's not the only, because I told you, I was in Houston last weekend, and in the meet and greet line, somebody came up to me, and as he was taking a picture, he was like, "Hey, by the way, just so you know, if I had $1 million, that's the name. If I had $1 million, he was like, if I had $1 million, that is actually from 1988." And I was
that's
like,
fine. That's fine to say.
Yeah, and I was like, what? Did they re-released it later or whatever? And he was like, yeah, then they put it out again.
That's fine to say. It's fine to say, but if all he said was that, like, hey, by the way, just so you know, it actually did, but he said, you talk out of your ass so often, Google it, dude. Fuck you. Wait,
I overlooked that part. He said, Google it, dude?
Yeah, he said, Google it, dude.
Well, the whole thing was from Google.
I know!
But they were right.
They're
like,
right,
we did Google it, and then we called Google wrong, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm maybe the Google it part is just a tongue-in-cheek comment.
You talk out of your ass so much. Like, yes, I do, but let's not attribute that to fucking when I heard the song "If I Had $1 Million" and it not being on Gordon. Which
did you say something about it otherwise anywhere else?
No. No, it was just a fucking off. I can't even believe anybody thought about this.
The Google it part has thrown me off because, again, the whole thing was based on me literally Googling
about
is
how
how
Google's
it started.
Wrong.
Yeah, I know. I don't. Anyway, I don't know.
I'm sure it came out on a demo. Basically, by the way, every song you've ever heard was on a demo at one point, probably. That came out a long time before. Like, yeah, this dude is right. I don't appreciate the derision and the assumption that I am spreading false information on purpose and by talking out of my ass. I was correct that it came out on Gordon, by the way, which is all I said. Rewind the fucking tape. We need a Jamie. We need Burns to be on here.
You think so?
Yeah. All right.
I got to put him through that. Another thing, someone that's sourcing from the audience, but is not going to cause me to go off into a complete, spiraling rage.
You knew what you were doing,
yes,
by the way.
I already said I knew what I was doing.
Okay.
Weeks ago now, someone was like, because I had went and looked up silly, curses, I guess is the right word, or like phrases like, oh, fuck your mother up the ass, that type of thing.
Foul language.
Yeah, but what do you call those? Like the
insults?
It's not just one word. It's like a string of words put together into one. Porco Dio that's when that came from. We were talking about Porco Dio, which means God is a pig.
Blasphemous language.
Yeah, they're not all blasphemous though. It could be any kind of. It doesn't have to be.
Curse
anyway,
phrases.
Yeah, curse. I don't know. Just curses. Anyway, whatever. I looked them up, and after that, someone was like, you should look into the etymology of some like curse words on the show. And I made a note of that, and I've gone back and looked. And that person, if you're still listening, and I hope you are, maybe follow up and remind me what specific ones you meant, or if I'm off base here, because I just looked up etymology of curse words because we use them a lot on the show, and I thought that, and a lot. I'm going to be honest. There's some interesting little some tidbits in here, but most of these I feel like. Do
you want to play the guessing game where you give one and I try to guess the etymology?
Yeah, but I'm already saying. They're not. Most of them are not super surprising or anything.
Right.
First up is shit. You want to try to guess the origin of shit?
Okay, so I would assume, if I had to guess, that the word shit originally was spelled and pronounced a little bit different in Old English, right? Probably like shite or something like that. Mm-hmm. And when the Gaelic tongue became less and less because of English colonialism, the E got removed and it just got shortened, and then it became shit.
Yeah, it's I mean, basically it's been around since Old English through Middle English and now Modern English. And from, the Old English was it's Scite, and I don't know if that C is the way we would say it or if it's like
right.
Saita, or something.
Yeah.
Evolved into the Middle-ish Shita, excrement, and Shaitan, to defecate.
That's German, right?
Scheissen.
No, Scheiser is German.
Scheissen is the German version, but they're all kind of like similar, and it just it just means fucking poop,
right?
Originally of Germanic origin, related to the Dutch Schaten and the German Scheissen. They don't. It says they all essentially mean poop or to poop. Which
too poop, too furious. That was
which I think
the sequel.
I think we all knew that.
That's the Elvis sequel, Too Poop, Too Furious.
The words from which shit originates come from even older words originally meaning to part with, separate, or cut off. So, that makes sense. Yeah, you cut off a, big old stamer.
Oh my God.
I did think this was fun. Bullshit. What? Did you think of something?
Yes.
Do you
remember the famous Reddit story of the poop knife?
Yeah. How could I forget?
Okay. Well, yesterday, Amber.
Okay, so for people that don't, very, very, very briefly, a dude grew up in a family that they poop real hard, but also their plumbing isn't great. So two things at once. So in their bathroom, they kept a poop knife. So a knife that they had to chop their poop
attached to a chain.
Attached that they had to chop their poop up with, or else it wouldn't flush. Well, this dude grew up in that house, so he genuinely had no idea that not every single household came standard with a poop knife until he was like a teenager or an adult. So that's the story. So anyway, go ahead.
So we have been Amber has this thing, and maybe Katie does too, because she's a shopper, right?
Yeah, she be shopping.
Well, does Katie have like certain things where it's like, yeah, they sell this everywhere, but she only gets it at a certain store?
I mean, probably, but that store, I assume, is just Target.
Well,
Katie goes to Target, Michael's, Joann's, fucking TJ Maxx, all the white woman classics. That's pretty much the only places she goes that I'm aware of.
Well, Amber is like
and thrift stores.
Amber is like that with so many things where she only gets at either Costco or Sam's, right? So if we're running low on it, like if we're running low on a certain thing, I'll be like, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to get, insert whatever item is here. And Amber's like, no, I don't get it there. And I'm like, why? She goes, well, I'm going on a Sam's run in like 4 days, and that's where I get all that stuff. And I'm like, right, but we're going to need it before 4 days. Like, we're going to need it before 4 days. And she's like, but that's where I get it. And I'm like, yeah, but they got it everywhere else. And one of those is diapers, right? One of those is diapers. She likes to buy the diapers in bulk, which, for the record, not a bad call. They're cheaper. You got to get a bunch of them, whatever. Well, Bane was running low on diapers. And I was like, hey, I'm going to go get some diapers. And she's like, don't do it. Don't do it because I'm going to Sam's in 3 days. And I was like, he don't have 3 days worth of diapers. And she goes, okay, well, I've got a bunch of old diapers of his that are like one size too small, but really he's fine. Like, it'll be okay. It's no problem. He can just wear those until then. And I know that that's stupid, but at the same time, I have, as much as you think I'm a dumb person, I've learned to pick my battles. So I was like, all right, fine. He's in a 6. He can wear some 5s, whatever. So the other day, Bane, we go to bed and we put him in bed and he's wearing a size 5 diaper. And when you got kids, you put them in a sleep sack, like that's their blanket, Well, Bane, she woke up and Bane had, in the middle of the night, his diaper come off because it's too small. Like, it came off. and he fucking shit all in his fucking sleep sack,
tater sack.
But it wasn't like, diarrhea where it was there. It was the biggest fucking turd I've seen on a human. Like, it was, when you, like, he's a tenth the size of me. And if that turd came out of my asshole, I would have texted it to you. Right.
Yeah.
So Amber she's like, fuck. So she gets the sleep sack and she dumps the sleep sack into the toilet. Right. And it won't flush. Like, my 2-year-old has clogged up a toilet with one turd. I couldn't be more proud, right?
Respect, yeah, of course.
But it won't go down, right? And so Amber is like, what the fuck do I do? And I told her, I was like, baby, if you just plunge that motherfucker, like, it'll go down. But she went and got this knife that we had that was, like, dull, and we were about to throw it away, and she poop knifed the turd, right? And it made me laugh, and I was like, do you know what you're doing right now? And she'd never heard about the poop knife story, so I told her. And Amber, instead of being, like, disgusted, she was like, that's a good idea. We should have a poop knife.
So did you keep that poop knife?
No, I made her throw it away. Yeah, but she was like, I mean, but her thing was like, she's like, why don't we keep the knives that we get at Wendy's? Like in the plastic thing, and we just keep them in the bathroom to cut turds in half.
Bro, I always envisioned a poop knife being a much longer affair.
Metal.
Yes. Like a fucking plastic knife from, like, fast food knife.
Couldn't agree more.
This long. I'm not. That's way too intimate for that particular job. I ain't trying to get down in there like that.
You and me are on the same page, and I will never. I told her, I said,
I want a fucking poop bayonet or a spear, a poop spear, have the knife on the end of a big stick.
Sawzall.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not like, a fucking 5-inch butter knife.
Yeah, no, I'm on your team. And I told her, I said, baby, you can fucking fuck with a poop knife all you want. I said, but you got to understand, like, I'll take the trash out, I'll cook, I'll do everything. I said, but when it comes to, like, if there's a poop knife situation, you the lord of the poop knife. You know what I'm saying? But, like, I told her that, and her reaction wasn't, that's so gross. It was like, God damn, what a great idea. So we used a poop knife yesterday.
Right. Well, that's it. But that's the first and only time you've ever needed one, right?
Sure, but, like, I mean, what's to say if Bane's pooping this at 2, like, that he won't need a poop knife in the future?
Yeah. I think a man could just, in a pinch, use a poop stick, like, procured from the yard.
If you plunge hard enough, it'll go down.
Or just that. Yeah.
I'm a great plunger. Like, some people, Amber's not a good plunger. I'm a great plunger.
Necessity has formed me into a pretty good plunger. I've had to up my plunger game over the years.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong here. Tell me if I'm wrong here. A lot of people get in trouble because what they do is they stick the plunger in and they go woo woo woof. You're not supposed to do that. You go tiny little. You go tiny little
you got to
thing.
make a little seal and then pop
because it's tiny little things, right? They do this and then they get water everywhere, and it's not
the
idea
work.
Of
someone fucking pickaxing a goddamn plunger into a clogged up toilet.
Most people do that.
Throwing poop water all over the place, screaming, crying while they're doing it.
Most people do that. They treat it like fucking Mjolnir, dude.
Insane. Yeah, right.
They treat it like Mjolnir, but you got to treat it like you're stabbing someone in the yard. You know what I mean? With a shank. You got to, it's just, and it'll fucking go.
So, next up is bullshit. Of course, we already covered shit, but this one I did think was fun and interesting because I found this surprising. It always just yeah, sure.
Okay. So, bullshit when it gets petrified, right? Bullshit when it gets petrified looks like maybe something else, and someone thought that they had come across something else, and then they pull it apart and they go, "Oh, that's just bullshit."
Yeah. See. That's why I'm also. It has nothing actually to do with bulls, with male cattle, or their poop, or none of that. It's not like you always just assume it's like bullshit. It's like obviously it's a word we use to mean bullshit, made up stuff that ain't it, stuff that ain't true, whatever, a lie, fraud. But like you always assumed it comes from the poop of a bull.
Poop of a bull,
for some reason. But it doesn't. The word bull came first as a word, like, oh, that's bull, right? Again, you hear people say that, oh, that's bull. You assume it's a shortened version of bullshit.
Bullshit, yeah.
But that apparently is not the case, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Apparently, bull came first as a word meaning a lie or falsehood, and its etymology is it originates from an old French word, bolet. Okay. An old French word, bolet, which meant deception, trick, scheming, or intrigue. Bolet translated into the Middle English bull, which meant false talk, lies, or fraud, and was used as early as the 14th century. So bull meant bullshit without the shit part before shit ever even got added to it.
That blows me away.
Yeah, me too. And apparently bullshit was, became... the word did exist for a long time before it became widely used, which is in the early 20th century. Most notably, it was part of the title of an unpublished T.S. Eliot poem called The Triumph of Bullshit. Next up.
Shit, man, like shit and ass have so many, as the suffix of things, they have so many different meanings. Smart ass doesn't mean being smart. It means you're like sarcastic,
mouthing off
or whatever. Dumbass does mean that you're dumb. Wise ass is kind of
smarting off again.
Smarting off again, maybe a little bit different. Horse's ass means that you are just a prick, obnoxious
making
or
an ass
whatever.
Out of yourself.
Yeah,
hard ass.
Hard ass means you're fuck people up.
Well, it can mean a couple things. It can mean that. It could also mean like strict.
Hard-headed. It would be the same thing.
No, I mean like if your boss is a real hard ass.
Hard ass, yeah.
Like about it means like he gives you no leeway. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. What's the other ass?
Shit ass. Shit ass just means that like you're into stuff all the time and you can't get right.
The newest entry into the lexicon has to be
dead ass.
Shout out to Gen Z, dead ass,
which means you're serious,
right? That is what that means, right?
Yeah,
dead
you're
ass.
Serious. No, dead ass. He dead ass. Fuck that girl,
right? And that means he surely did.
And by the way, when he dead ass fucked that girl, that means he got some ass,
right? Apparently, fuck, one of the most popular curse words, is also one of the hardest to trace because from a very early point in time, it was banned in written works and dictionaries. I guess it's been obscene for a long time.
And they say it meant fornication under consent of king.
Okay, where did you get that from?
That's the anagram of it is fuck fornication under consent of king was.
You sure that ain't apocryphal?
No, I'm sure that's apocryphal. But I'm saying like when I was first learning etymology of stuff, like a lot of people said that like to fuck meant it was allowed. You know what I mean? Like they're fucking, which would be like a bride and a groom, and the king had to bless that, and it was fornication under consent of king.
Well, there's just almost no way that's actually true.
I completely agree with you.
Because it's all these languages have very, very similar verbs that mean the same thing. Like it says in Dutch, "fokken" means to breed or beget. Norwegians have the word "fuka," which means to copulate. Swedish has "faka."
Oh, you the fuka.
"Faka" in Swedish, which also means to copulate. So it has the same exact definition. And those are all like very similar. It says fuck did not appear in any English dictionary until 1965 because of obscenity, although it obviously had been around much
wasn't
longer
the U
than
spelt
that.
as a V for a while? The F-V-E-C-K?
Yeah, I think that was just
Old English way of...
Actually, that's a good point, though, as far as what you were saying earlier. Back in that time, it wouldn't even have been a U. It would have been, yeah. I mean, I think you're right about that.
I'm pretty sure that I am
for a long time, U's was just V's. I think. Let's see here. But yeah, it has all these different languages of origin with similar words, and they basically all mean the act of sexual intercourse, copulation. So, an ancient classic.
The one that we like 100%, I say 100% no, maybe you're about to prove me wrong, but like the one curse word that like I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement on exactly what it means is bastard. You know,
right.
Bastard was you're a child born out of wedlock, and then that became like something you just said to someone to insult them. Probably like I would say the insult became something that people would say to lower class people, whether it was true or not. Like, you're a bastard, you know?
Right. By the way, since we said a while back we're going to start, we should do this. I'm looking at 2 articles here. One of them's from Mashable, called The Origin of Swear Words, and the other one is from Scribendi.com, etymology of curse words. But anyway, motherfucker, this one's upsetting to me because all it really says is the first known instance of it, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. The first known instance of the word motherfucker is from the court, what do they call court transcript, right? The court stenographer's record, a court transcript from a trial in Texas in 1889, where a witness on the stand stated under oath that the defendant in the case was, quote, a goddamned motherfucking bastardly son of a bitch.
Say that in Texas.
I mean, I kind of did, didn't I? Goddamn motherfucking bastardly son of a bitch.
Boy, I mean,
it's a real life Al Swearingen right here, man.
Dude, you know that the audience in that place was just like, whoo, shoot. They just started shooting their guns up in there.
Slamming it. Yeah.
Throwing their hats and shooting holes through it.
That is the official Texas celebration and has been for at least 150 years, the Yosemite Sam.
That's why it's dangerous.
And I was just in Houston. Instead of an applause break, they shot their guns in the air.
Dude, if the Cowboys ever win a Super Bowl, someone's getting murdered. You know, like it's going to happen.
Yeah, but that guy, I mean, it's funny because he could be like, I've always kind of thought that the very first instance of motherfucker might have just been very literal. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
you fucked my mother.
Exactly. Yeah.
You motherfucker.
You had sex with my mom and that don't hit for me. And, just come to you. You're a motherfucking turncoat piece of shit or whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody else heard it and was like, hey, that hits.
That does hit.
It's just like every kid points out at some point and realizes, like son of a bitch is like, really about your mama.
Of course.
But nobody
which is the worst thing you could do.
Right. But it's not, it's weird. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, it is a direct insult at a person.
But it has nothing to do with you.
Right. It's just insulting your mother, which, of course, most people, not me, have at it, the world, but most people would be upset by you insulting their mother. But
if some dude that you didn't know, like I could insult your mother forever because
anyone.
It
doesn't matter.
But I'm saying like
fucking go off. It ain't gonna lose nary a drop of sleep over it.
Yeah, but if
someone calls me, it's like you son of a bitch, and they say it angrily. That's what I'm trying to say. That's still gonna upset me, but it's not because of it, they insulted my mother.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. It
transcends that meaning. I promise you, I'm not interpreting that way.
No,
but I still don't want anyone to call me
a
son of a bitch. I just don't care.
Okay.
If someone says, your mother's a real bitch, I'm like, nah.
Do you mind if I do a thing without you getting upset?
Okay, what?
Okay. Me is one thing because I'm kidding and like it's all in good jest or whatever. And dude, we make fun of my mom all the time too. Like that's no big deal. But if someone you didn't know, like, or maybe they did know you and they knew all these things about you, was getting up in your face and they were like, dude, your mom ain't nothing but a fucking crack whore piece of shit. You come from a bad lineage. She fucking would sell you out for Percocets. That's not upsetting you, even though some of it's true. That's not upsetting you.
It would upset me.
It's still your mama. You know what I mean?
But that's not why. I swear to God, that's not why.
No, I believe you.
It would still upset me, but because of the nature of that type of interaction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
like
I
this
get
dude
it.
would be going out of his way to disrespect me to my face. So of course I would find that upsetting, but I swear to God, it's not because of the mom.
And you know what?
That's my mama part of it.
I'm glad you brought this up because that's a really good point that I've always tried to make about how cuss words don't mean anything. It's always the intent of the cuss words. Like if me and my buddy were just hanging out And he was like, and I made like I jumped a ball to knock an 8-ball in, and he was like, you motherfucker. Him calling me a motherfucker wouldn't matter because I know he just meant like, you motherfucker, I can't believe you did that shit. So it's not the cuss words, but if some dude was in my face and he really meant ill intent and he wasn't cussing, he was just being like, you maleficent, sack of excrement, and you blah, blah, blah. And he was saying all the right politically correct things, but he was saying them in such a tone that I knew the tone was negative. I would be as mad as him as if he was saying curse words. So, the words themselves don't matter. It's the intent behind the words.
100%.
So,
because what about this?
When I call my wife a cunt, it's not, she don't get mad because it's always like, she'll turn the channel. I'll be like, you cunt, I was watching that. But I don't mean like, you fucking cunt, I'll kill you.
To go back to what I was trying to say about son of a bitch and how it's weird because it's like, it, of course, is directed at your mother, but I feel like people don't actually interpret it that way because in line with what you're saying, what about when somebody says something along the lines of like, man, I tell you what, he is one tough son of a bitch, right? It's like,
that's great.
That ain't got nothing to do with his mom.
Of course not. Of course not.
Literally, his mom has no part of any of that.
But there's cowboys that would take that the wrong way.
Say.
Yeah, like not tough son of a bitch, but like
that's what I'm saying. If you call me by a tough son of a bitch, none of them are going to be like, "What'd you say about my mama?"
No,
like,
absolutely
no one on earth is going to do that.
Absolutely not. But there are some people that if they said you're a son of a bitch, like they might interpret that because, mamas are. I know you don't relate to this, but mamas are like, dude. I remember the maddest I've ever been in my life. Literally, kindergarten. I went into school. I was so nervous about going to school, and my mama gave me a piece of Cinnaburst gum. I'll never forget the brand of the gum. It was such a formative moment for me. She gave me a piece of Cinnaburst gum. She's like, here, this will calm you down. Just chew your gum. Go about your day. Here's a treat, whatever. And I get into class, and Miss Dean, who was the teacher's assistant, she goes, hey, we don't chew gum in this class. And I go, yeah, but my mama gave it to me, which in my mind meant like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. My mama gave it to me. And she goes, well, I don't care what your mama did. That ain't how we do things here. And if I had the wherewithal as a kindergarten to kill a person, I would have done it because in that moment, she insulted my mom. Like she wasn't saying I did something wrong. She was saying my mama did something wrong. You know what I mean? And like that fucking, I told my mom this the other day. I said, I have dreams about that, which is crazy. But it was like my connection to my mom is so deep that like this woman insulted my mom by saying like your mom was wrong, and I'd never in kindergarten, I'd never experienced my mom being wrong, and for someone to tell me that it fucking, it brought out the Josie Wells in me, dude. Like, I was ready to fucking throw down because what do you mean my mom is wrong? And there's some dudes that still got that shit in them. Now, like, obviously, y'all talk shit about my mom all the time, and it's fair because it's true and stuff. But, like, in that primal moment, I was not mad at her for telling me to spit the gum out. I was mad at her because she told me that what my mom did was not right. And that did not sit well with me, and it still doesn't to this day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear you. I mean, I'm well aware it's like that. I mean, I know we both supremely love the remake of 310 to Yuma from James Mangold.
Oh, my God, dude. Mangold is a god.
Where Russell Crowe's character, Ben Wade, he's a criminal. He's an outlaw, and he's being like marched away by this posse or whatever, and somebody insults his mama, and later he throws that dude off a cliff.
Yeah.
And he's like,
and he wouldn't have done that if he insulted
bad men
him.
Love their mama, is what he says.
That's the whole point. I mean, that's every country song.
And I was always
that's every country song. Mama tried. Mama tried.
I know. I've always said I've never loved a song more that I relate to less than the song Mama Tried.
and I totally understand that, but like
I love that song though.
But you are smart. But you're smart enough to understand that it's a thing. Like we're not all lying. You know what I mean?
So
like if someone fucking you can say whatever you want to me. I mean, I'm not saying I won't get hell, I just read a tweet where I wanted to kill a dude, but I'm saying
right. Yes,
but I wouldn't actually do it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't actually do it. But if that same dude was talking, like, let's see, hypothetically, he was commenting on an episode, the episode of POA where me and my mom did it. If someone said something bad about my mom, I would geotag their location and hunt them down and beat them within an inch of their life, like without question, or my sister or any woman in my life. Like I would do that and feel nothing. I'd feel nothing, you know?
Right. I got two left, and we can go on to your thing. Both of these, I think, are at least somewhat interesting. This one, I'm getting this straight from the fucking Oxford English Dictionary. So, but this one I think is kind of wild, sort of, unless I'm misinterpreting it. Goddamn.
Okay.
Where goddamn apparently originally comes from the old French "godon" from the 14th century.
You know they goddamning like motherfuckers over there.
Which was originated as a term of reproach applied to the English by the French. So goddamn was like a slur for Englishmen from 14th century France. And it meant like they are damned by God, you know, like they don't have forgot. They're whatever, unholy, you know, they're demonic. They stank. They don't hit, whatever. But goddamn, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, originated as a curse, again, a slur for the English from the French, if I'm reading that right. But I just read it to you verbatim, so
that's
tell me if I'm.
That's one of my favorite things about the French is how blasphemous they are, because they're one of the more blasphemous. If you look through history groups, like I think about the when I was a kid and I was just starting to realize like maybe God don't hit, you know.
Right.
I saw South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, which, by the way, holds up. Comedies don't often hold up, especially cartoon comedies, but it holds up. And I was rewatching it the other day, and I know they did this on purpose. They made this kid a French character, but they've got this French kid who, like, they're like Cartman and all them are like in the resistance because Saddam Hussein has taken control of hell and they've killed Kenny and they're coming back or whatever. And so all the kids are in the resistance and they meet this French kid who is like the leader of the resistance, of course. And one of the kids is just like, we've got to work this out and we've got to know that God is on our side. You know, God is on our side. And the fucking French kid takes a drag of a cigarette and he goes, God, he is the biggest faggot of them all.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I know. I remember. I'll never forget it.
And then there's the scene later, and I'm sorry for saying this word, but it's in context for this. But he's sitting there and he's dying. He's like bleeding out, and he goes, God, where is your faggot God now?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, the French don't really fuck with that shit. Like, it's like it really reiterated to me how much like Western religion was like its own thing, you know, and like other people were just like, what the fuck are you talking about? This don't make sense. So yeah, it makes sense that goddamn would be a French thing.
My buddy's alcoholic father took like 7 of us, and we were in 6th grade, 12 years old, same age my younger son is now, to see Bigger, Longer, and Uncut in the theater. And
Fire.
It's like,
how hard did you laugh?
Oh my God, bro. We were dying, and he was too, by the way. The dad,
of course, it's funny,
fucking losing his mind. But like, we rode. I'm not saying he was drunk at the time. I'm not saying that. He was just a big drinker. But we rode in the back of a fucking truck, 40 miles down a highway, go at 65 miles an hour. Yeah, to go watch an R-rated movie, a hardcore R-rated movie. At 12 years old,
broke the record for cussing.
Yeah, God bless the 90s, man. Dude, Jesus Christ,
dude, I laugh so that movie, man. Like. And it actually gets better with time because you sort of understand some of the references more. Like, I knew that Brian Boitano was a figure skater, but I only knew him as a figure skater because of that movie. And then
Me too. That's what I was about to say. I didn't know that.
But now as an older adult, I know how like hardcore he was and like why that was funny. But like that whole segment of then we'll kick an ass or two. That's what Brian Boitano do. Yeah. It's like, dude, Matt Stone. We'll have to take a break because we could talk about this forever. But Matt Stone.
I have one more word, and then we'll take a break.
Okay,
and then we can do your thing. Because this one I do think is fun, although I wouldn't even consider it a cuss word, but it was for years, I guess. But crap, right?
Yeah, that's from the toilet. John D. Crapper.
Well, actually, that's like I think that's a case of nominative determinism, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm pretty sure you're right. Like the dude that invented the toilet's name was Crapper, I think, but that's like one of the history's all-time greatest cases of nominative determinism. I'm pretty sure, which is to say, it was just a coincidence. But according to Oxford English Dictionary and this website I'm looking at, crap originated as a farming term because its roots from the old Dutch word krappen, which meant to cut or pluck off, and the medieval Latin crappa, which meant chaff. Chaff as in the husk of corn or other seed, just the bullshit that lays on the bottom of a barn. You separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah.
So it made its way to Middle English as krappa, which referred to grain that was trodden underfoot in a barn, or chaff. So crap originally was like, fucking corn husk and shit on the bottom, just whatever fucking agricultural detritus.
So I got a bunch of crap on my feet.
You have a bunch of, and then it became a broader term that meant like junk stuff that is unwanted or discarded, just junk. So it's like,
so it really means that more than it does
than shit. That's what I thought was very fascinating. It's like, because we do use it that way. It's like, look at all this crap, but like then I always assumed that poop was first, right? But apparently it's not. Apparently
John Crapper.
Maybe you're right.
The toilet.
Maybe you're right.
And it's like
they called that a crapper, and it's like that's. But I just found it very surprising and interesting that crap did not start
because
as poop.
I'll be honest with you,
we started use as the other version.
We definitely use it more for its original term than we do.
How often do you say like I'm gonna go take a crap? Or
never.
Yeah,
or
some
I've got crap
sure
on my
do,
shoes.
But
I would say I got shit on my shoes.
Oh yeah, or poop even before I'd say crap.
Whenever
you say, look at all this crap. Where's all this crap come from?
Yeah.
This fucking
Whenever a movie is bad, you go, it was crap.
Right.
And like I've got all this crap in my house. You don't mean shit. You mean crap. This is crap. That's interesting.
I agree. I thought that one was
You started this by going, I don't know if this will go well. I've learned so much. This was very interesting.
Yeah, so shout out to the person who suggested it. I've long since forgotten your name, but it was a airhead suggestion from Airmail weeks and weeks ago. So thanks for that. It's time for a break, and when we get back, Joe's got a real treat for us.
That's true. I do. Hey, renters. Yeah, I'm talking to you, the people who rent, right? You don't own your house. You're just giving money to a dude who does own the house and all that stuff. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, hey, I can't listen to you. I'm too busy pouring oil down the sink. And I hear you on that. But here's the deal. Did you know that you can actually, for the first time by renting, earn stuff? Like get things for your rent? Well, you can. You can earn points by using Built. Have you ever heard of Built? Well, we're about to tell you. You can earn on your favorite airline miles, hotel points, all through Built just by paying your rent on time. And the thing is, everything's expensive. Inflation is crazy, but still your number one expense has got to be your rent. So if you're a renter, you should be taking advantage of Built because points hit. I don't care, unless it's like on your driver's license and you've been speeding. Other than that, points super hit. And if you're a renter, you should be taking advantage of this. Trae, you know all about Built. You know all about renting. Tell them about it.
All right, will do. There's no cost to join, and just by paying rent, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. When you pay rent through Built, you unlock two powerful benefits. First, you earn one of the industry's most valuable points on rent every month. No matter where you live or who your landlord is, your rent now works for you. Second, you gain access to exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city. Built's neighborhood benefits are things like extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, free mats or towels at your favorite fitness studios, and unique experiences that only Built members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Built points can be converted to your favorite miles and hotel points around the world, meaning your rent can literally take you places. So if you're not earning points on rent, our question for you is, what are you waiting for? Start paying rent through Built and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbuilt.com/POA. That's JOINBILT.com/POA. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. One more time, that's joinbuilt.com/POA. to sign up for Built today. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. That's right. You're going to have to move to a whole new town with the amount of boots you're going to be knocking, keeping your neighbors up all night, baby, pissing them off with your wiener. That's right. Blue Chew Max has arrived. And it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. The combo acts fast and it lasts. So guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew for free. That's right. I said for free. Great sex is a few clicks away. Just sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the U.S. of A., prepared and shipped directly to your door. That's the best part of the whole thing. You do it entirely on the internet, which means you ain't got to have any awkward conversations about your wiener at the doctor's office, sitting around the waiting room thinking wiener thoughts, and you ain't got to stand in line at the pharmacy for your wiener pills and bump into your old defensive coordinator or nothing like that. They got all that solved by putting it on the computer. Blue Chew, it hits for Cho.
It does hit for me, and a lot of people always ask me, they're like, does it work? And I'm like, dude, it makes my dick harder than walking into my local hardware store wearing this Allen Iverson shirt where he has a fro and not having people look at me weird. They do. It shouldn't be. We should be past that, but it's true. Blue Chew is awesome. And by the way, I always like to say this to everybody. It don't mean that you have to have a problem with your wiener. I mean, if you do have a problem with your wiener, obviously take it, but like, it's just the extra confidence. My favorite time of the month is when that little white envelope shows up, because I don't have to go down to the pharmacy. Y'all know that I was the school editor with the lady that works at my pharmacy. I don't want her to be knowing what's going down in my wiener times. And my wife also likes it, arguably more than me. And Blue Chew ain't going to stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That's the mission. That's what they told me. And everyone could use an extra hand. Blue Chew's going to give you an extra leg, though. You know what I'm saying? It's a pun. That leg is your hard wiener. Here's a real comment someone had about Blue Chew. They said, I cut diamonds with my tip, dude. So not only do you get a hard wiener, but like maybe a new job, cutting diamonds with your wiener. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life, and there's nothing sexier than confidence. First impressions, big deal. Lasting impressions, even bigger deal. And we can all relate to wanting to feel more confident, especially in the bedroom. Make life easier by getting harder, and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew for free when you use our promo code POA. All you got to do is pay $5 shipping. That's promo code POA. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. And Trae,
get you a new dick.
Why wouldn't you? Been done with this old one.
All right, we're back now. We're back from break, everybody. Welcome back to Puttin on Airs. Hope you enjoyed those words from our sponsors. Now we got something from Cho, just some light, low stakes. Sure not to piss anybody off, get anything wrong.
Sure.
Little discussion about a little known and and little talked about historical figure that many of you may have long since forgotten. Man by the name of Mark Twain. Is that right? You're going to cover Mark Twain? Yeah. Well, hell, you've done Shakespeare on here. You've done Mozart.
I think Mark Twain fits. Matter of fact, I would make the argument that Mark Twain is one of, if not the most perfect Venn diagrams of this show, because he is, by all accounts, a Southern boy who was raised in Hannibal, Missouri, who boarded a gambling boat, who also then went to entertain queens and kings and ended up with a home in Kentucky, and inarguably, which I will get to, sort of, I won't even say revolutionized. I would almost I think you could make the argument that he just invented the American style of prose. Because before Mark Twain, and this is in my notes, but I don't mind, but before that, tell everything you know about Mark Twain.
Samuel Langhorne Clemens, right? That's his full name. And I know he's from Hannibal, Missouri. And, some people sometimes consider, we're both stand-ups. Some people sometimes consider him perhaps the first stand-up, I think, because he did a lot of speaking engagements or whatever. So he's also, it's like he's a literary legend, but also a legend in the comedy world. In fact, as I'm sure everyone knows, the highest honor in American comedy that you can ever earn is named after Mark Twain. And rightfully so. And yes, Southern gentleman, like platonic ideal of a Southern gentleman.
Abolitionist.
Yes, was like woke, for the time.
So
like, thank God for that, by the way, because it's like
it'd be hard to read if not.
Right. If he hit real hard at all the things he hit at, but was somehow like just more of a product of his time or whatever,
still would have banged. And he was a product of his time.
Yeah, but he was like definitely progressive for his time.
He was.
So I'm saying like if people would already be like canceling the words from his novels and stuff, but people would be straight up trying to like erase Mark Twain.
Yes.
From the American cultural record if he hadn't been progressive for his time, I
Agreed.
think. So like
I couldn't agree
that's
more.
why I said thank God for that.
I couldn't agree more.
That's enough. So
I couldn't agree more. And like the things that they try to cancel from Mark Twain now is because people on both sides, for sure, I'm not going to leave anybody out, but people on both sides tend to have a problem with contextualizing things and putting themselves in a certain place. Or it's not even a certain place. It's like you could look at Mark Twain's writings and go like, well, of course he said that. That was how they talked back then. But like even Mark Twain knew that those were not good things to say. The reason that he said them was because it was never Mark Twain saying them. It was the characters in his books that were saying them. And it would be, to me, a disservice if he didn't have those characters saying that. Because, and I've mentioned this a million times, and I'll mention it a million times more because context matters. It's not dissimilar to Blazing Saddles and Django Unchained, where it's like that you're writing about a certain time period, and that is how people talked. And it would be letting people off the hook if you had them say different things. Right. Mark Twain wrote about the people of his time. He spoke in the parlance of his time. But before I get into anything, if I leave you with nothing, it would be what I said was, and by the way, all of this is coming from, I'll cite my sources, Mark Twain's autobiographical writings, which I've read all of. I'm a Mark Twain completionist. Biographical research that I've done, historical archives that you can find at yadayada.gov. Ron Powers' Mark Twain's A Life, Ken Burns' documentary Mark Twain, which I've not only watched 4 or 5 times, but I also rewatched leading up to this discussion. You can read a lot at the Mark Twain House and Museum archives, which are all online, and it's out there. You know what I mean? It's out there. If you want to find it, it's out there. So anything that I read in quotations will be coming from one of those sources. But there's many people, Ernest Hemingway included, that said that all modern American literature comes from Huckleberry Finn, in that Mark Twain sort of did a different thing where back then writers tried to, I guess it was like the equivalent of actors doing the mid-Atlantic accent when they first started acting. Writers, even though they were American writers, they would still try to write sort of upper crust English prose because they thought like this is the language of intelligence.
Literature.
This is the language of literature. And Mark Twain bucked against that, which, by the way, you don't have, not that ours was a great seller or whatever, but you don't have the liberal redneck manifesto. You don't have Round Here Over Yonder. You don't have a lot of what's his face from not Chaucer, but Nathaniel Hawthorne. You don't have a lot of Nathaniel Hawthorne if Mark Twain hadn't decided, you know what, I'm going to spell things the way they're said. And I'm going to write things the way that they're said, and I'm not going to give a shit.
But when you do that today, as you well know, that can be a divisive choice.
Sure,
obviously we did that with our books, and again, it's like our rationale was always like our accents and the way we sound is such a huge part of our whole thing. And so if we're writing something and you're not listening to the audiobook, you're reading it yourself, it's important to us to try to at least approximate you reading it in our voices. And there's really no other way to do that than to try to like spell things phonetically and kind of force you to read it the way that we say it.
Yes.
But some people, I don't know. I don't know if they find it cringy or
they find it cringy or they find it stupid. But I also find that those people either are not well versed in Mark Twain or they don't understand the similarities, because that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly what he was doing. Like, there's a lot of criticism that he gets for how he writes for N-word Jim.
Uh-huh.
But he wrote it the way that he knew this guy. Like, he knew this guy, and he wrote it the way that guy talked. And it was not to make fun of him. It was to establish that this guy talks different than me, and this is how it would sound. And which, by the way, just to do a quick plug, that's where I found it the most difficult when I was doing public domain Sleepy Time Theater. Jim was the hardest to read, because I had to read it like 3 or 4 times ahead of time so that I would know to get the cadence, because it wasn't spelled in any way that I've ever read a word, But when you get it and you say it, it all makes sense. Like, it all makes total sense. But like, the reader needs to be, hey, a former slave would have a different slang than an educated white man. That's just true. I don't give a shit how progressive you think you want to be or how well-read Jim was. That's just true. And Mark Twain completely changed prose, and he made it to where you could write as an individual instead of someone. Mark Twain never wanted to pretend to be a writer. He wanted to be a writer. You know what I mean? And you can see that. Like, I've had critiques when I wrote for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. One of the best critiques I got was, you sound like you're trying real hard to be a writer, and really what you need to be is Corey, And Corey is a good writer, but you're trying really hard to make everyone think you're something that you're not, right? And I take that to heart. His early life, this is 1835 to 1853, obviously, when he was born. Famously, he was born Samuel Langhorne Clemens on November 30th in a tiny village in Florida, Missouri, which is just taking 2 of the most redneck words you can and pushing them together, as Halley's Comet is lighting up the sky, which is a big deal because, to flash forward, as a lot of people know, he also died when Halley's Comet came back. So if there's ever a guy,
who else was born under the blaze of Halley's Comet?
Hitler.
Dustin Thompson.
Was he really?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
His parents are hippies, as you know, I think. So as such, his middle name is Haley, Dustin Haley Thompson, because he was born as it blazed across the night sky. I missed it by just a few months when I came out.
So what? He was born 70-something years after Twain died or whatever?
Yeah, is it 72 or 76 years it comes through?
Something like that, 76 or something
like that. But it was 1986 is when me and Thompson were
Twain,
born.
I think, may have died in like 1916, so that like kind of checks out.
About right, yeah.
That kind of checks out.
Something like that.
But a reason that a lot of people, like, we know that Twain was born under Halley's Comet and died under Halley's Comet, but like a lot of things that people don't know is that Twain was born really sickly. He was underweight. I don't know if he was a preemie, but he was born very underweight and very sickly. But his mom was like the only one not worried about it. Like, everybody was like, oh, he's not good. Because back then it was like, if you were born sickly, they're like, he ain't going to be able to help with the crops.
Yeah, right. Well, know? Or just live.
Or just live, right?
Like, yeah, if you're born sickly, like, well, this one's probably done for. You might want to go ahead and get knocked up again.
And which he did have 11 brothers and sisters, of course, all met
everybody
tragic.
Back then did.
Most of which met tragic ends. But his mom. But when he was born, his mom sees
the past.
Yeah, when he was born, his mom sees Halley's Comet, and whether or not you believe in astrology or any of this, his mom, her faith was restored because she was like, this means something. Like he was, whether it's like going back to the Bible times when like the North Star was more prevalent during Jesus's, birth or whatever. Like she goes, this is an omen. This is something,
Well, at that time, I mean, did people even know? Did we know yet what a comet was at the time when he was born?
I don't know if they knew.
Because if you didn't, I mean, yeah, that shit's wild.
Of course,
you can't. Like, I mean.
I would say that at that point they probably knew it was a shooting star, but I certainly don't think that they knew like that's Halley's comet and that it will be coming back within 76 years. But like,
it's actually a good question. I wonder when Halley claimed that comet and when it got called Halley's comet and all that.
Well, you look that up and I'll tell you about. He was the sixth of 7 children. Only 3 survived past childhood. It was a frontier family. It's 1839. When Sam's 4, the Clemens family moves to Mississippi River town of Hannibal, Missouri, seeking better prospects. And to anyone who knows, that's a huge. I mean, we might, if they don't move to Hannibal, Missouri, obviously anything can happen. But it's possible that if they don't move to Hannibal, Missouri, we never really truly see the Mark Twain that we got today, because Hannibal, Missouri was the Oedipus, not Oedipus, but was the origin for him creating the town that he did of St. Petersburg, which is where Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn are from. Hannibal, he had so many great memories from there. It was a slaveholding society. Slavery was legal in Missouri because this is pre-Civil War. But it became his playground, and it later inspired him to write all these stories. And he grew enchanted by river adventures and pranks and soaking in all these scenes that again are one day going to populate his novels. Like Jim was based on a real person, and Jim was the reason that Mark Twain became an abolitionist, because when Mark Twain is growing up in Hannibal, he's going to all these schools and he's going to all these churches and he's surrounded by black people. And as a child, as we always say, and it's true, racism is a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior. It's something that you have to hear your parents say, and it's something that you have to be taught to do. Because to Sam Clemens, the young Mark Twain, he hung out with as many black people as he did white people, and he didn't know the difference. I mean, there's no reason for him to know the difference. He just knows these are people, I'm a people. He probably learned more from black people than he did anything. He learned all the Southern slave songs. This sort of gets him interested in storytelling, like hearing the slave songs and hearing them talk about like the roots of the slave songs and why they wrote them. And he starts understanding like act structure through all this shit, like the start of a story, the middle of a story.
These were slaves though, right?
They were slaves.
Or is this like a freedman's community?
No, they were absolutely slaves. Slavery was legal in Missouri
the people that there was just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. He wasn't going on some plantation or something, right?
No, he was. He was a runabout. He was a runabout. Like he sort of like how he writes Tom Sawyer as like someone who just took off in the morning and came home for supper. Mm-hmm. He was sort of like that. Like he would just take off and go play, and that would end him up at somebody he knew from school's plantation, or he'd be down by the river and he'd meet a black person who was a slave. But to him, it was just like he had no context for these people are owned and these people are different. He just knew that like they sang the fuck out of some songs and they were cool, and a lot of them were like paternal figures to Mark Twain. Like he had a dad and whatnot, but like he looked up to these older men and he sought them for wisdom. And so by the time he understands that like slavery is a thing, he was already sort of like, wait, what? Like the dudes that hit for me so hard are not people. Like they're owned by other people. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So FYI, before it gets too far away, astronomers have been recording the reappearance of Halley's Comet since 240 BC, but it wasn't until 1705, so still much, much before Mark Twain. or Samuel Clemens, 1705, that the English astronomer Edmund Halley realized that these were reappearances of the same comet every so often. He made that discovery, and it's named after him. So from 1705 on, they knew that it was, I think it was called Halley's Comet.
That's all well and good, but I don't know if a Missouri family knew that.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like you're talking about, because like they would have had to read that in a book, and like books
or
were
the
scarce.
Newspapers. I mean, weren't newspapers? You know what I mean? Like, isn't this the era of like newspapers being a big deal and stuff?
Not only is it the age of a newspaper being a big deal, but that's what I'm getting into next. So from
I feel like the newspaper would have definitely covered the fucking.
That's true.
The return of Halley's Comet.
That's fair. That's fair. But from 1847 to 1853, tragedy struck his family. His father, who was an attorney and a judge, he died of pneumonia. Sam's just 11. The Clemens family then struggled very financially after this blow. And by the way, their dad was not a good financial man. Like he made money as an attorney, but he also and this is something that will come up later, because Mark Twain too was like a shit ass when it came to like finances. Like, as much money as you think Mark Twain made, he did, but he also pissed it all away on like stupid schemes.
My man.
The way that I can describe him is, did you ever watch The Man Who Invented Christmas?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's a great movie. He's kind of like, the way that he's described in these is he's sort of like Jonathan Pryce's character, who is Charles Dickens' dad. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he had the means to do stuff, but he was always scheming and then losing stuff and relying on other people. And Mark Twain would do the same thing later in his life. The Clemens family, they struggled financially after this blow, and a year later, Sam had to quit school after the 5th grade, and he's got to work to support the family. So he becomes, oddly enough, like he had no desire to do any of this. This is just happenstance. He becomes a printer's apprentice at the local newspaper where his brother worked. By 1851, Sam is working for his older brother, Orion Clemens, who owned the Hannibal Journal, and Sam was setting type. And he got so obsessed with words. Like, setting type really sort of taught him how to read and understand story and stuff, because he's setting type for these newspapers. And he also begins writing witty sketches for the paper, but for a non-diplom. Like, he doesn't say that it's him. You know what I mean? Because he didn't know if he could get away with it. He also didn't want anyone to think that his brother was just giving him this shit. And he's a self-taught wordsmith, and he's honing his humor and his observation skills. He's writing a lot about it, the stuff he sees. And at 18, he's super restless, and he leaves Hannibal, and he goes and works as a journeyman printer in New York, Philadelphia, Cincinnati. And he's experiencing a wilder world, because you got to understand, when he's in New York and Philadelphia and these places, these are free places. These are places where there's no slaves. So he sort of fits in a little bit better there, but also he regales them with the tales of hey, I'm from a place where this happens, but also I'm like one of you where I don't think it should happen. And it's sort of like when Hollywood asks us to give our unique perspective on stuff, but they don't listen. They actually listen to him, right? His pen names at first the first pen name he had was just Josh. That was his name, was Josh. Then he went by Thomas Jefferson Snodgrass, then Sergeant Fathom, then W. Appamendus Adestrus Blab, before finally landing on Mark Twain. But through this whole time, it's a great change.
Good change.
It's a great change. But during all this, he really had, among writing, he really wanted to be a steamboat captain, because in Hannibal, there were gambling ships and stuff, and he had made a little bit of money, working on them, scrubbing the deck and stuff like that. And in 1857, as a riverboat rookie, he's chasing his childhood dream. He's 21 years old. He returns to Mississippi, and he becomes a steamboat pilot, which was the most coveted job on the river. He apprentices under experienced pilots for a very hefty fee. He's got to actually pay to be an apprentice. And he rigorously learns all the river's channels, their shoals, their changing moods. Then 2 years later, after training, he earns his pilot license, and he loves it. He's well paid. And also, as he later wrote, while piloting was a proud position with a princely salary and unmatched prestige. It's during these high times on the river that Sam Clemens adopts that name, Mark Twain, and the moniker becomes the leadsman's cry, Mark Twain, meaning the water is 2 fathoms, 12 feet deep, safe for passage. He plucks the term right out of the muddy waters of the Mississippi, forever linking his identity to the riverboat that he loved. And by day, he's skillfully navigating the riverboats, and by nights, he is writing. And all of these writings that he does is percolating from his experiences on the riverboat, but also he's keeping notes of like future ideas. In 1858, while he was doing the river stuff, he convinced his younger brother Henry Clemens to join him as a crew member, and disaster strikes. The steamboat boiler explodes. He survives, but Henry is gravely injured, and he succumbs to his wounds a week later. And Mark Twain is just shattered with guilt. And he claims that he had dreamed of this tragedy a month prior, which was either a coincidence or premonition, but he can't shake it. And this sparks his lifelong fascination with the uncanny. He becomes someone who is like really believes in like superstitious stuff, which sort of makes it ironic later that he dies right during Haley's Comet. You know what I mean? It's almost like he knew. He's like, oh, there it is. I'm fucking gone. You know, he's guilt ridden for all this. And so Steamboat Piloting loses a lot of its luster. But he does continue on the river until 1861's, until it's the end of the riverboat era. The American Civil War erupts, and commerce on the Mississippi River obviously grinds to a halt because all of this water is being used for the, the Continental Navy, or not the Continental Navy, but the Confederate Navy and all that stuff. War ravages the nation. Clemens is about to take a sharp turn, and he heads to the Wild West. And he's a quirky soldier. He was a Confederate soldier, but he never actually killed anybody. He's a 25-year-old. He has a short stint as a soldier. He's on the Confederate side, albeit very half-heartedly, because he does not agree with the slavery part of it. It's just that, like, he's in Mississippi. What the fuck are you going to do? You know, as I've always said about the Civil War, it's like every single Confederate soldier wasn't pro-slavery. A lot of them were just like, hey, people are coming here with guns, and I guess I better get one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he would satirize his farcical episode later in a piece called The Private History of a Campaign That Failed, which poked fun at his Confederate escapades. And he emerged from it very amused. He took a lot from this. He took a lot of it for his writing. He ends up taking a stagecoach to Nevada in 1861. He heads west to Nevada with Orion Clemens, which was his older brother. And he, at this point, had been appointed secretary of the Nevada Territory. So they embark on this dusty stagecoach journey across the Great Plains and whatnot. But Sam, nearly penniless, turns to what he knows best, which is writing. And 1862 to 63 is known as like the birth of Mark Twain, when it really sort of pops off. He lands a job as a reporter for the Territorial Enterprise, a rollicking Virginia city newspaper, right? And he worked there for a long time, wrote about his river rat days and all that stuff. And captured the spirit and the nostalgia, also with plenty of comic exaggeration and nostalgia. Before I move on, do you have any comments on this so far?
I mean, I don't know what to say about it. I'm just enthralled with the tale, I suppose. What do you got there?
Oh, just a little tea. Just a little regular tea. You know how it goes. 1864 to 1865, he's living as a bohemian in California. He flees trouble in Nevada. he heads to San Francisco, where he continues as a journalist, writing for newspapers like the San Francisco Daily Morning Call. In their Bohemian articles, he befriends a bunch of other writers, including a humorist named Artemus Ward and a literary editor named Brett Hall, and they encourage his talent. They're like, dude, you fucking rule. Like, you shouldn't just be writing for newspapers and shit, and especially under a nom de plume. Like, a lot of them tried to get him to go by your real name. Like, people need to know, like, this is Samuel Clemens, and he's like, nah, Mark Twain. That hits way harder. Twain transforms all of this talk into the celebrated Jumping Frog of Calabasas County, which was a short story that was published in November, and that catapulted him to national fame. So in 1866, he takes a Sandwich Island sojourn with his reputation growing. He has an exotic assignment in 1866 to travel to the Sandwich Islands, which, by the way, if you don't know what the Sandwich Islands are, that's Hawaii. That's what they called Hawaii back then. I don't know why.
I did not know that.
I didn't either. He's a correspondent.
I know he famously said, according to the internet, travel is the death of bigotry or whatever, but it's like
he did that.
Traveling like he did fucking back then is wild.
Unreal.
How long did it even fucking take to get to Hawaii back then and back? I mean, it had to take months, didn't it? Hawaii's way the fuck out there, and obviously you were having to take a boat.
The thing about Twain is that
I never understood how people do that weren't like generationally wealthy, because it's like you take, even if it's for a job, it's like you take 2 months off of your life just to get to a place.
Yeah,
like what about money during that 2 month time frame? You know,
dude, I don't know. I mean, granted, all you had to do was have a penny, I guess, but like, he was making, a little bit of money writing his stories and stuff like that. But Twain is also the type of person that, like, I would assume relied heavily on patronage. Like, he's a smart fella. It wouldn't surprise me if he was able to just convince people by word of mouth, like, hey, let me borrow a little bit and I'll be back and I'll pay you back with it. You know what I mean? Or, like, I'll write you this thing or I'll whatever. Like, he was charming at parties, and shit like that. And I do have a lot more, and we're just gonna have to cover it in another episode. I'm not gonna call it part 2 because apparently that's bad. We'll just do Mark Twain.
I didn't realize reprimanded. You got reprimanded by our podcast network.
I got reprimanded.
Was that just directed at you, or were
I
other
don't
people
think so.
doing
No,
that?
other people do that too. But you know what's funny is, like, you say that.
Yeah, apparently you ain't supposed to put.
I look at the metrics. I've never seen a drop. Like, we still have the same people every week, but I won't do it. We'll just call this Mark Twain's early life, and then we'll do Mark Twain's later life or whatever. But there's too much
strategy.
There's too much in here, and there's too much for discussion. But Mark Twain, I will end on this before we get into, because again, I haven't even gotten into him writing Huckleberry Finn. I haven't even gotten into him buying his Connecticut house, any of that stuff. There's just too much, and I'm not, like, of all people, like, I'm not saying I've never done a bastardized version of a person on this show. I certainly have. But if there's one person I'm not going to do a bastardized version of, it's fucking Mark Twain. Mm-hmm. When you said travel is the enemy of bigotry, Mark Twain, like, famously never lived in the same place for more than 2 weeks. There for a long time of his life.
Damn.
For more than 2 weeks.
I knew he got around. I didn't know it was 2 fucking weeks.
He would get bored really quick. He did have homes. Like, he had homes where he would do retreats to when he needed to, like, I guess, dry out or whatever. Mm-hmm. But when he was on the road, like, he would get bored really. Like, he'd have a house in New Orleans, and then after 2 weeks, he'd be like, fuck this shit. I'm going to Key West or whatever. Mm-hmm. But just a remarkable fella, and I do maintain that, like, all modern literary genius comes from Huckleberry Finn, and he sort of invented a new genre, and we owe him a lot. But I will stop there because there's just too much. But I will get into some airmail, if that's okay with you, Trae.
That is okay with me.
Okay. Subject line: Jamaican accents, man. First name only if you read it on the pod. So this is Noah. Hey, boys. Thanks for reading my last email about Edison and Tesla. I still haven't listened to this bit because I'm super weird about hearing stuff read out. So here's another one for you to read for me not to listen to. I'm working my way through the archive, and y'all told the Cheesecake Factory Jamaican accent story again in the Biltmore episode. Trust me, it hit just as hard the first time. Just by coincidence, I'd listened to the QI Elves podcast, No Such Thing as a Fish. Note, QI and NSTAF both hit, and you should check them out if you haven't. And they were talking about the Disney classic Little Mermaid. Apparently, the original plan for Sebastian, the crab who sings the one song everybody knows from the movie, even someone like me who was boycotting Disney at the time because I was busy being a moody teenager who hated everything fun, was for him to have a posh English accent. But the team working on the songs requested that they changed him to Jamaican because they thought that would hit for the song. By the way, it's a good change. Turned out that the voice actor who was doing Sebastian couldn't do a Jamaican accent, but he could do a Trinidadian accent. So the famously Jamaican crab is actually speaking with a Trinidadian accent, which means that legions of white people think that Jamaicans sound like Trinidadians. This led to the actors in Cool Runnings about the Jamaican bobsled team being told to do the Sebastian accent rather than the actual Jamaican accent because the Jamaican accent would sound wrong to the audience. Tiffany problem. That's the Tiffany problem. Anyways, love the pod. Since I know Cat's hit for Trae, here are my two sweet boys, Hair Doctor Professor Meatloaf and Mr. M Meatloaf. There you go.
It's fucking nice kitties right there.
That is a nice kitty. I did not know that.
I didn't either. And also, I'm just going to say, like, I mean, I've seen, I don't know if you've seen, there's a guy that's pretty popular on Instagram and stuff. He's a white Jamaican, and from what I can tell, he's like, he legitimately is a white guy who's from Jamaica. He may also rap, but the videos that I see,
does he look like Jake James?
He does man on the street stuff. Nah, okay. I wouldn't say he looks like Jake James. He does man on the street stuff, and it's like, anyway, he's from Jamaica, and he talks to other Jamaicans about Jamaican shit. So, like, I know that those are authentic Jamaicans, and I realize that and Sebastian sounds very cartoony to me and stuff, but, like, I don't know. I don't hear a huge difference is what I'm saying. I mean, people talk in a different way.
Well, we don't hear a huge difference between Korean and Chinese, but some people do.
Well, also, I was going to say, the other thing, I think you do, but I don't really. There's some places, and there's a lot of different Southern accents. Yeah. And like, I can't pinpoint those. I never have been able to.
I can some if it's in a movie.
If it's like, you know, like that North Alabama where Jason Isbell and the Truckers and those guys are from.
Oh.
And your boy Matt and them.
They talk like this. They got their mouth
it's kind of high pitched. That Texas, one I can sort of pick out. But see, Texas, I don't know. Like,
I can get Texas a little bit because they're just a little bit slower with everything.
Well, these people are just wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. It could be that everyone just thinks anything is Texas, but Texas is what I get the most from people.
Me too.
Like, and that's their assumption. But again, that could just be coastal people or Yankees or whatever. I get
it from
they think
Southern
everything
people.
Is Texas. But yeah, almost no one ever says, "Are you from Tennessee?" People ask me all the time, "Are you from Texas?" Like, I get that all the time.
I get Texas from people who are actually from the South, but I've always attributed it to that I'm from a tri-state area, and like a lot of my family's from Alabama, and a lot of them are from Georgia, and some of them are from Tennessee, and I've just got like an amalgamation of like all of them or whatever. You know who is an expert on Southern accent? People in our comment sections who's never been to the South ever at all. They're huge experts on it. Here's another one from Ben. Subject line, Corey hits so hard, a.k.a. limericks for the show. What's up, Corey and Trae? I've been listening for a number of years now, and I want to say thank you for what you do. Y'all hit super hard for me. I'm a woodworker / musician and dad of two here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my bestie and former bandmate told me about POA. I really love Well Red and Gravy Baby too, and can't wait to catch y'all on stage again. Saw Trae this past fall in Santa Fe, and was super pleased. All the dudes hit for me, to be honest. Shout out to Shar and Drew. Mark's okay, I guess. I did not proofread this.
That's funny.
I wanted to drop a couple limericks on you and thank my buddy for hipping me to y'all's whole vibe. I name check him in the poem. Hope that's okay. Love y'all, Ben Joe. Here's the limerick. Corey has asked for more poems from airheads that don't really know him. We know he likes Trae and his brand new baby. If his balls are so large, he should show them.
Don't give him no ideas, please.
From Denver to Des Moines to Dallas, in a trailer, a duplex, or palace, we stream POA, praise Corey and Trae, shout out to Russ from Corvallis. Give Billy Strings and Brian Sutton's album Live at Allegiant a go. It hits so hard. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Hit for me.
This is a short one. Daredevil, fuck the subject. I'm just so happy to hear Cho felt it was fire. I did too. All my nerd friends hate it. I say this is a full fucking nerd skew. That's true. Daredevil does hit.
I thought that was well received. I thought people liked that show.
Some people are mad about it.
Okay, well, we just started it. Me and my boys were 2 episodes in.
It's fire. Let's air some grievances. This is by Alexander. I'm okay with you saying my first name. It's Alex. First off, how the fuck can Trae call himself Southern and hate squirrels? What kind of queer is he?
What?
Those fuckers are delicious. I would think Trae would be.
No. That's not loving squirrels. I love to eat squirrels because fuck them. Like, you can't. Are you serious right now? I'm all kill them all. Fucking kill them all. Eat them all. I don't give a fuck. And that hits for you. I'm saying calling me a queer because I don't like squirrels. I'm not talking about they meat. I do like their meat just fine. That just don't make any damn sense to me. Anyway, go ahead.
And then you, Cho. You don't want to look like Larry from the Three Stooges? I'll have you know Larry Fine is the hittingest bald to ever grace the earth with his presence. You're a hitting bald too, but don't ever think you're better than Larry Fine, God damn it. Actually, the Three Stooges might make a good episode. They were royalty in the comedy sphere for 40-ish years. They were also totally screwed over by Columbia Pictures. Even though the Three Stooges were the most popular act of the time and maybe all time, their bosses tried to make them think the studio was doing them a favor. Hope you guys explore this potential episode, if for no other reasons than to catch up on the Three Stooges. Love you guys. Love the pod, Alex. That's not a bad idea, and I'm taking that to heart. Okay, Trae, I need you now to pull up the pictures.
Okay.
This goes with airmail, but I didn't want to give you any context. I need you to pull up the pictures.
All right. Okay. This is the first picture.
Okay. All right. And so scroll through all three real quick just so you can get a good view of all of them.
That one. I assume I'm guessing that's me and Katie.
Okay, sure.
I would say that's even gayer Drew, but that don't look anything like Andy to me because Andy's hair, she's not a red.
Sure.
A ginger like Drew is. And then, I mean, this makes me question everything because if the first two was me and Drew, is this like you with hair? Because if you had that hair, it would be hilarious.
Okay.
But, I mean, that don't look anything like you. So
Okay.
That's what I got.
This is from Adrian. Subject line, I made Sims of the well-read trio. No. Hello, I hope this message finds y'all well. I've recently started playing Sims 4. By the way, I'm about to start playing that when you stream with me, which, by the way, every Wednesday night, I stream from 7 to 9. Hello, I hope this message finds y'all well. I've recently started playing Sims 4 and decided to make a Sims of y'all and your wives. I usually make my Sims to resemble characters from TV shows. Breaking Bad, The Expanse, for example. Wow, dude, you rule if you're doing The Expanse. Expanse is such an underrated show. It's so fucking good.
It's literally easily a top 3 favorite television show of all time for me. I just finished all the books.
It's prime. It's
There's
I
3
need to read
books.
The books.
There's 3 books after where the show ends, and so I just finished the whole saga. It's some of the best science fiction ever made. Modern science fiction, especially. Actually, we hit for James S.A. Corey.
We do. I talked.
Well, that has nothing to do with why I'm saying this. I would feel that way. If they hated me, I would still feel that way. But they are actually fans of ours too, so that makes it doubly cool. But that Cannot praise The Expanse highly enough.
Yeah,
anyway,
they sent me a new book.
And show.
They sent me a new book not too long ago. But this time I felt inspired to go with real-life characters as I was listening to Puttin' on Airs at the time. I've attached photos of each couple. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Katie, so I had to guess at what she might look like. I had to admit the version of Sims was a learning curve for me, and so I somehow managed to not save Trae's Sim version that I designed to look like him correctly. Instead, it reverted to, okay, I'm not going to read some of this because I've been a listener of this Extended Skewniverse for years now. I enjoy listening because Liberal Rednecks pretty much describes the majority of my family, and more than half of them are also Anglophiles like Corey and Trae. Listening to Well Read and Putting on Airs is like listening to holiday gatherings to me. I thank you all for what you do and the laughs you bring in these dark times. Keep on skewing and what you skew so well. Okay, here's now what I want you to do, Trae. Guess which ones are who.
I already did that. That's what I started with. I know,
but do it again. Do it again now with all that context.
I mean, I still think this is me and Katie.
Okay.
That's got to be Drew. Again, that doesn't look like Andy to me, but that's got to be Drew. And then again, is this Jamaican you?
I'll tell you this. You were right. You were 1 out of 3. What do you think the 1 out of 3? You're 1 for 3.
Drew.
You got Drew right.
So this is me and Katie?
That's you and Katie.
And are you sure you didn't read that wrong?
No, I swear on my fucking life. That's why I had you. Look, hold on. Corey and Amber.
I think those are mislabeled.
I'm not saying
they don't look anything like Amber, and I'm not saying the other one looks like Katie, but
he said I've never seen a picture of Katie before. Like, that's Amber. Like, he made Amber. Like, no, that's me. I thought that was you too, but that's you. That's
putting
you right
the
there.
Women out of it. That's looks so just fucking like me.
I agree, but that's me.
It has to be mislabeled,
right? But it has to be. But it's fat.
Okay.
But but she knows she has pictures of Amber. That's the thing. She has pictures of Amber. She doesn't have pictures of Katie. That's Amber. And also the trucker hat.
That could be Katie too.
The trucker hat.
Yeah, but
yes, it could be Katie, but she don't know what Katie looks like.
On our podcast and shit show, I don't ever wear them, but all of my most famous internet videos, I'm wearing a ball cap in. Corey,
I'm just telling you.
Okay, well, this person, listen to me.
But why the fuck would I have long hair?
I'm not saying I don't have long hair either.
I know.
I don't have cornrows. I don't have none of this shit.
I don't have any hair.
Okay, but all I'm saying is, put the women out of it, and this looks nothing like you.
Agreed.
My main point is that has got to be me.
I agree with you, but if that one don't look nothing, but if that one don't look nothing like me,
essentially,
if that don't look nothing like me, then why would that be me?
Okay, okay, why would it be me?
I don't know, dude.
You do have this facial hair, essentially,
but I also have the other facial hair. And she's seen Amber. She knows what Amber looks like. If she knows what Amber looks like, why would she make her a redhead?
I think this is Jamaican you. That's what I think.
Nope. I think that's you.
Okay.
That's clearly Drew.
Drew is easy. Again, assuming they've seen pictures of Andy.
And they nailed Andy, yeah.
I don't think that looks like Andy.
It's got a tattoo, and she's wearing a stupid fucking dress. So that's Andy.
Sure. But Andy don't have red hair.
Well, they're clearly not a great artist. I'm just saying, that's me, dude.
I mean, Amber, if that is Amber, has got some serious Joker
makeup
going on. She knows
what Amber looks like. The only person she said she'd never seen was Katie.
I don't know why you're so emphatic that on that one piece of data.
Because it's written there as Corey and fucking Amber.
That's fine. Okay. So, all right, whatever. So, this is just trolling me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Go Dodgers!
Good job. I mean, that's a black guy's haircut. That's like Jamaican.
Dodgers!
Okay, that's...
Lakers! That's you, buddy.
Okay,
you look like a fucking piece of shit.
It's one of the worst attempts I've ever seen.
By the way, whoever just sent us that, please send us something different back. And also confirm that I'm right, that you meant those in that order.
Again,
plug your shit, you fucking
whoever the white Jamaican
shit.
Guy is, it's way off.
It's you.
Whoever it is, it is. That's not even my point. That's not even the main
Maybe
thing I'm saying here.
Maybe they're doing that because of how many times you're like, Bumbleclat, Michiskek Factory.
Right, but you do that too. That's why I was saying. Yeah.
Of course. Right. But they made the other one fat. They didn't make that one fat. So they made you fat? You want to go with that? They made you fat?
Corey, that other one is very fat.
The with the long hair, not fat?
Very fat.
Go back to it.
Very, very fat.
Go back to it.
No, I've already closed it.
No, I'm fatter, though.
I think they're both maybe the same model, but if
Cheesecake Factory.
If anything, the Jamaican white guy is fatter.
I wanted this so bad.
Is fatter.
This is exactly what I wanted.
You're not listening to me. But now,
don't you understand why I asked you to pull them up?
Yes. There's not a jury of people in this world.
Couldn't agree more. I'm just telling you what this person said.
That first character
is not you.
Doesn't look much more
couldn't
like
agree
me
more. I
than
couldn't
you.
agree more. I agree. That's why it was.
Put the fucking fat Jamaican white man out of the picture.
I couldn't agree
that
more.
First model objectively looks way more like me than you.
I agree. That's why
and
I
Katie
thought it was
and Amber
so funny.
Are essentially interchangeable. Let's be honest.
But she's never seen Katie, but she has seen Amber, and that blonde bitch is Amber.
They're both basic white women. Sorry,
but not
Katie,
blonde,
you know
motherfucker. Not blonde, motherfucker.
Katie's
That's
kind of blonde.
Katie
She's never
got
seen
red
Katie.
hair, son.
She has what?
She had red hair last time I seen her.
Oh, well, I don't keep up with her hair.
All I'm saying, bro, I agree with you. When I first saw that, I was like, okay, that's Trae. But then I saw it said Amber and Corey.
Right. Well, okay.
Send us some more Sims back. And also, I will play with you in Sims. We'll make this a thing.
All right. So, thanks for watching, everybody.
You fucking Jamaican eating the goddamn plantains, boy.
Go to TraeCrowder.com, see all my upcoming tour dates. I'm actually, this weekend, if you're listening when it's new, I'm off this weekend for the first time, and I kind of don't know how long it's been. But next week, I'm right back at it. Seattle. And then Las Vegas, and then a bunch of other stuff after that. I'm about to announce some New York shows, 2 different New York City venues in June. So keep an eye out for those. If you're in the Big Apple, go to TraeCrowder.com for all that. You can also find a link to my special Trash Daddy and just check it out. Make a hit.
Hey, go to CoreyRyanForrester.com. You can come see me this weekend, Friday, May 2nd in St. Louis at Helium, 2 shows only. Then after that, I'm off to Fort Worth, Texas. And then I'm in Sunnyvale, California at Rooster T. Feathers. Those tickets will be coming up soon. Please subscribe to WeLoveCorey.com so you can get access to all my new podcasts, including Public Domain Sleepy Time, which is, man, I've gotten 20 new subscribers just since I last posted the episode. It's a good time. Check me out at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I just wrote a new op-ed for them. And I don't have to say thank you all for listening. That's the other podcast. Stay fancy, motherfuckers. Stay fancy, motherfuckers. I love you. I hope you don't die.
Here's Lydia Loveless.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trae and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.